what I'm trying to get at is, what is it about online-only sites that seems to be gaining this kind of, these large numbers?
Theft.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, the notion that it's entirely a one-way street is false. It's not simply pilfering without returning anything. Right now, the link economy is not enough to sustain newspapers. I think the reason that we're all up here is that we believe that the fundamental act of reporting, which is primarily done by newspapers, is essential. There's a reason that it does have constitutionally guaranteed protections. I think that we're sharing, or, depending on who litigates that. I think that that's our sort of shared reference point and the reason that we're all here. However, internet sites that aggregate do send a ton of traffic back to the news sources, which can help generate revenue, but more than that, will expose those stories to far more people than may have otherwise seen them. I know that one of the reasons the Huffington Post has been so successful is that it's energized a generation of people about news who haven't really picked up newspapers. I love the newspaper. I love the tactile feel. I grew up with them. I was quite literally an ink-stained wretch and had lots of pants that I had to throw out from palming them with tabloid ink. But I'm somewhat of an anomaly among my generation, and the site has been incredibly successful, as has Gaper's Block, that Andrew's behind, at bringing in people who care deeply about news, but have been turned off by the traditional ways in which it's been delivered by newspapers.
Go ahead, John.
I wanted to follow up on the theft. If you go to Slate, they'll tell you what the top stories are from the top newspapers. Now there are any number of websites which do that. There are broadcasts that are done today that are done totally off of web sources, never identified, sourced. You can steal from anybody, and nobody. The world is so media oriented, nobody will ever know. I wrote a non-published novel a few years ago in which one of the characters was and this was 30 years ago, one of the characters was the president of an all-news radio station. And every Christmas, she sat down and wrote a check for $50,000 to the New York Times, $40,000 to the Tribune, $30,000 to the Sun-Times, and said, this is my annual contribution for what my people in my news operation have stolen from you. And I think that's one of the things that we have to talk about today. It's one of the reasons that these online services are very popular, because they do a good job of stealing, and you can go to that source and get everything that perhaps you want. It doesn't satisfy me, but it's something that we ought to talk about if we're going to talk about the business of the future of this business.
Because one of the things that we absolutely want to talk about today is this whole business model thing, right. and it's very complicated, and there are a couple of broad schools of thought about how that might happen. But
and just one last thing. I thought we were coming here today. I thought the headline would be, we could wake up 3 months from now, 2 days from now, and have one newspaper left. 6 months from now, have no newspapers left. Isn't that the lead sentence to why we're here, and what will happen if that occurs?